Hey, welcome to another episode of Superhero Deep Dive. I am your host, Jason, and I have a fun episode for you. This past week, I found out that there was a National Bikini Day, and instead of posting my bikini shots on Twitter, because that would definitely violate terms and services, I decided to cover everyone's favorite bikini-clad superhero. We're covering Tigra today. So let's check it out. Before I get into it, I have to give my normal disclaimers like I do every week. And I believe this is like 25 or 26 weeks strong now. The items or the information pulled today is from different sources across the internet and may or may not be completely complete, but they do give a really good insight on the current superhero. And I say this all the time, and I still get asked about it frequently. The reason I don't include everything possible, like if you look up stuff on Wikipedia or Marvel or DC or any of the fandom websites, you may see other storylines that you like that were not covered by me, and it's just because I felt like they didn't massively impact the character. And I could be wrong, but I mean, I can only take so much information and fit it in within the 20 to 30 minute time frame. So, yeah. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, requests for superheroes to be covered, anything like that, critiques, anything at all, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter at superdeepdive, and you can use the hashtag superherodeepdive. You can always email me at b4itall, so b4itall at yahoo.com. And yeah, and if you're watching this on YouTube, you can leave a comment or send me a message on YouTube. I think you can do that. I don't know. I've never done it, but whatever. And as always, you can catch me wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts with Superhero Deep Dive, part of the Talk Nerdy to Me network. You can also hear me every Tuesday and Thursday at Outworld Fleet Radio, and that's www.un-conventional.com/radio. And you can find me on YouTube under Superhero Deep Dive. Whew, that was a lot. So yeah. So I thought it was funny, with the National Bikini Day to cover Tiger, because she is well known for being the cat-like superhero that always wears a little blue bikini. So I wanted to cover that. Let me see here. Let's get into it. Her real name is Greer Grant Nelson. So that's the first thing. Her history is kind of like the Tigra is the historical defender and champion of the cat people, a humanoid race created by sorcery during the Dark Ages. Concerned about the cat people's uncontrollable population growth and savagery, as cats do, a community of sorcerers eventually banished the entire original cat people population to a demonic netherworldly realm. And that's just harsh, but, you can't just spay and neuter your cat people, so you have to do what you gotta do, I guess. The two very first cat people, who were themselves very capable scientists and sorcerers, were able to evade banishment through their magic. They continue to live among humanity in secret and work to refine the cat people's biology to make a peaceful integration into the human population possible. They were constantly persecuted and required a protector. Discovering that the original spell for transforming cats into cat people like themselves has been rendered inoperative, they created a process combining science, sorcery, and focused mental power that could transform a human female into a Tigra, a humanoid tiger-like being with abilities that far surpass those of either race of cat people or humans. This unnamed first Tigra defended the cat people with great effectiveness and allowed a new community to establish themselves on Earth, separate from the group that had been banished. And this new population continued to live amongst humanity in secrecy throughout the present day, relying on enchantments that cast the illusion of a human appearance. Okay, this is pretty intense so far, but I'm liking this because it's got that little bit of sorcery and history with it. Like, this isn't just something that just happened. So nothing is known about the other Tigras who may have existed, or even if there have been more than two. At the time when Greer was transformed into Tigra, the title was only remembered by the cat people as a distant but powerful legend. It has been strongly implied that only one Tigra can exist at any given time. So it's kind of like its own Highlander. Like, there can be only one. Let's see here. Okay, there was a doctor named Dr. Timulo who was revealed to be one of these modern cat people. When members of Hydra tracked Timulo down to obtain the final secret, which is the Black Death Plague, which was another creation of the first two cat people. Which kind of makes sense if you think about it, because it dealt with rats and stuff, rat bites. So why not, right? Greer once again donned the cat costume and drove them off. However, she was mortally injured by a blast from one of their alpha radiation pistols. Now, before I get into any farther, when it says the cat costume, some of you may be wondering what that is. We'll cover this in another episode somewhere down the road, but there is a superhero called Hellcat, which is kind of like a yellow costume with like a black cat mask on and like black gloves, I think. That was Tigra's original costume, and she called herself the Cat. And that went on to someone else took the costume and became Hellcat. So when she donned the cat costume, again, I'm not covering her antics as the cat. I'm just covering the Tigra persona. So she donned that cat costume, drove them off. However, she was mortally injured. Okay. So Greer regained consciousness in a Baja California cave, surrounded by a gathering of cat people summoned by Timulo. Rapidly dying from the radiation's effects, Greer was offered one last hope of survival, a combination of ancient science, sorcery, and mental power that would transform her into Tigra, the cat people's legendary half-human, half-cat warrior. She readily consented, began wearing only her black bikini from this time on, and arose from the ceremony as a superhumanly powered human-animal hybrid. Striped fur covered her entire body. Her hands and feet bore razor-sharp claws. Her teeth became long and pointed, and her eyes were now cat eyes. In addition to superhuman strength and senses, she also gained many of the drives and instincts of a cat. Soon after, she actually encountered a werewolf. Though initially unable to change back to her human self, Tigra received from the cat people a mystical cat-headed amulet that allowed her to create the illusion of her human form and later to change at will. She seldom made use of it, preferring her feline superpowered form and mostly abandoning her life as Greer Grant Nelson. So she embraced the Tigra persona. And, for the most part, she was kind of like she was in the West Coast Avengers. She did a lot of things, but there wasn't a whole lot that was, like, really pertinent. Like in the Marvel movies, Hawkeye has a history, but in the movies, like, he wasn't doing a whole lot until, like, the final Endgame. That's kind of how it is. Like, for the most part, her history was pretty bland after that. Like, they established her, and she just kind of went. Now, Marvel did have, a civil war, where it was Captain America versus, Iron Man over the Superhuman Registration Act. Now, Tigra was one of the people involved in it. Now she was part of Iron Man's team, and she pretended to switch alliances and infiltrated Captain America's secret Avengers team as a mole. She passed information to Iron Man undetected during this time until the very end of the conflict, when she was discovered and outed by Hulkling, who is not actually the Incredible Hulk's son. He may get an episode of his own one day because he's an awesome character too. But he is a character that adopted a Hulk-like persona, and he's a teenager, so they call him Hulkling. Captain America's own spy amongst the pro-registration forces. Captain America kept quiet, exploiting her presence to feed disinformation to Iron Man about his team's plan to rescue imprisoned heroes later that day. So, Captain America's smart. He doesn't have... to me, Captain America's like the ultimate kind of superhero, because he doesn't have a whole lot of powers. Like, he's an amped up person, but he's smart and he can strategize, and he doesn't always let his emotions get in the way. He thinks about the bigger picture all the time, and that's what makes it cool. So Tigra has been identified as one of the 142 registered superheroes who were part of the 50-state initiative. And this was after Civil War finished. A bunch of people registered, and what they wanted to do was have superheroes in each state, and even small teams in each state. As a result, so they can kind of all have a presence somewhere. Now, she served as a founding instructor at Camp Hammond, which is a training compound for the initiative. So she was going to be in charge of training newer heroes that signed on. So she's had some other adventures since then, but nothing I really wanted to go into. She has had a baby with a Skrull, but the baby was half cat, half human, and didn't have any Skrull DNA. And that was just a whole lot of stuff I didn't really want to get into, because depending on the story you'll read with Tigra, if you see her in a book, you may or may not realize that she has a kid, because it hasn't been super important unless the story calls for it to be. It's really weird how they do that, how they treat some of these characters. And I can't say I'm not complaining about it, but it's really hard sometimes, because there's a lack of consistency in some things. That's why when I cover heroes, I cover their core essence, because when you end up reading a story, this is the stuff that's going to end up showing through regardless. So yeah. So powers. This one's actually long because they got really detailed about her powers instead of just giving general things. So Tigra's powers are a result of a combination of science, magic, and mental energy utilized by Dr. Joanne Marie Tumullo and the other cat people. Her physical appearance is distinctly cat-like. A thick, sleek coat of orange fur with black stripes covers the entire body. She has pointed ears, sharper than normal teeth with pronounced upper and lower canines, eyes with enlarged irises and vertically slitted pupils, and retractable claws on both her feet and hands instead of nails. Her claws and teeth are sufficiently strong to puncture sheet steel, such as that found in a car body. Tigra also has a long semi-prehensile tail that can willfully contact but not grasp and lift objects with it. So, yeah. Let's see. Tigra's feline physiology grants her various superhuman attributes, including superhuman strength, speed, stamina, agility, reflexes, and resistance to physical injury. If she is injured, her physiology enables her to heal much faster and more extensively than an ordinary human. A Tigra possesses a mystical talisman that allows her to change her appearance from feline to human at will. She rarely uses it and only appears in her human form whenever circumstances require it. She regards her feline body as her natural form. Tigra possesses mystical abilities that have largely gone unexplored. In addition to using her mystical talisman to change her appearance from feline to human and back, she has been shown magically summoning the Balcatar, the cat people's designated emissary to the earthly plane. When Doctor Strange abdicated his position as Sorcerer Supreme, the Eye of Agamotto created a vision showing the many mystic beings who were potentially worthy and or capable of assuming the title. An image of Tigra was included in this vision. So that's pretty cool. She's got mystical abilities, and she's got powerful mystical abilities, but they have never really been explored. Like that could be a whole thing. That's not what I chose for her power expansions, but that could be a whole thing. And maybe it should be. Maybe the fact that she was listed as one of those potential successors should have opened some eyes and be like, wow, there's a whole freaking dimension to this character that we haven't even touched that we could. So there is that. Relationships. She's had a relationship with the Avenger Yellow Jacket, who ended up being a Skrull. So spoiler alert, I guess. And that's where she had her baby with. She's also been known to flirt, and I don't know if they've actually had a relationship, but she was flirting with Wonder Man, Simon Williams. Like heavy flirtations at the very least. So if they've had relationships, it's great. If not, that's okay too. It's cool, whatever. Fun facts. The reason she wears a bikini all the time is because her fur is warm. She is hot. She's too hot to wear normal clothes, so she prefers to wear a bikini to cover up modest bits, but for the most part it's because her fur is really warm. Her body temperature is really warm, so if she wears a lot more, it's probably gonna exhaust her. But she was also in the animated series Avengers United They Stand. Hulu intended to make a Tigra and Dazzler animated series, but the series never got off the floor. It was announced as being canceled in 2020. It just couldn't take off. And now Dazzler and Tigra could have been a fun series, but I really don't know how they would be connected. But yeah. Let's see here. Tigra appears in Hawkeye's ending in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 as a member of his West Coast Avengers. Tigra is a playable character in Marvel Superhero Squad Online. She's also a playable character in the Facebook game Marvel Avengers Alliance, which I missed that game. I wish it was still active. Tigra is a playable character in the 2016 video game Lego Marvel's Avengers. And a teenage version of Tigra appears in the mobile game Marvel's Avengers Academy, which was also a fun game. I don't think that's active anymore either. Some of the bad things about some of these Marvel games is like, some of them stick around forever. And some of them that I actually really enjoyed die out. But that's like all her basic information. What do you guys think so far? Like, it's a pretty cool character, right? I mean, it's pretty cool. You got this person that, just became a cat person, embraced it, totally embraced the persona, joined one of the best superhero teams in the Marvel universe, You can't really go wrong saying you're an Avenger. um, and she's held her own. She's held her own consistently. So like it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Also, another fun fact: when Tigra was originally made, and this could be when she was like quote unquote the cat. Um, she was originally created to be a female character, written by females, drawn by females, to empower females, to be a role model. Um, she was going to be what Wonder Woman was, basically, only without the weird, sadistic S&M creator origins, which is a whole thing. If you didn't know about that, sorry to ruin it. Google it. It's really weird. They have evolved Wonder Woman since then, so Wonder Woman is awesome now, but really weird beginnings. Really weird beginnings about her creator. But Tigra was, she's originally started to be written and drawn by females to empower females, to be a role model. So, keep that in mind. That's a really cool stance to have, because back in the day, I would say, gosh, probably until maybe mid-90s. So we're looking at, within the past 20 to 30 years in comic books, history, that females have taken prominence. At least notable prominence. And when I say that, I mean that sometimes they have female writers or female artists in the quote-unquote bullpens, but they were never really given credit, to my knowledge, in comic history. Comics has usually been considered like a boys' club, So this was something that's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool step forward, So yeah. Let's get moving on to the power expansion part. But before I do, if you guys have, sorry, I just took a sip of water and it kind of got stuck in my chest. Okay, I'm good now. So before I go any further, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, requests, critiques, anything like that, let me know. Catch me up on Twitter at superdeepdive and use the hashtag superherodeepdive. You can use the hashtag on Instagram as well, Superhero Deep Dive, and we'll find it. I look it up every so often. But yeah, like, what do you guys think? This is pretty cool, right? Pretty cool story so far. So I was thinking about what we could do with this character. How could we make this character grow? How could we develop this character? All that kind of good stuff. What could we do? And I really think that for the most part, the character is looking pretty awesome. The character is primed for a Marvel Cinematic Universe intro. Like, I love the mystical aspect of Tigra's origin, and it also has some science that they mixed in with it. Like, let that be a movie. Like, let's introduce her to the MCU with a straight up origin. Like, what if, and just bear with me here. What if she was based out of, like, Africa? Like, not necessarily at Wakanda, but outside of Wakanda. They had a huge vibranium meteor come down and hit Wakanda, and then that's how their civilization developed. But what if they had some areas in Africa that were just a little bit separate from Wakanda, so the stories wouldn't have overlapped. And that could be Tiger's origin. Like the what if the metal got hit with some kind of radiation? What if the vibranium had a reaction? I mean, with anything, like on, I don't know. There's a mystical aspect in it too. So what if there were some, there, gosh, just magic back then, and the vibranium, because they have the talismans, they have the in the Doctor Strange movie. If you look, there's the wand of Watun, I believe, and that's an African um, magical item. So what if they had other magical items over there? And she was affected by it, or like the cat people, I guess, were affected by it. So, um, something like that. Like, so she could start to make herself known, like after the blip, because we've already moved past that. So she wasn't involved. She wasn't known at the time. Um, During Endgame and stuff. Like they did not find her. She stayed kind of out of the way. She wasn't close enough to Wakanda to attract attention. Um, so all that stuff could fall into place. That and the fact we know that there are mystical elements based out of Africa from the Doctor Strange movies. We know that there are um, with the Eternals movie coming out. We know that there are things can happen anywhere at any time. Um, so what if like it was based something like that, like after the blip. So she let's say she disappears during the blip. Um, and the world is kind of thrown into chaos at that point anyway. When everyone starts coming back, she's one of the ones that comes back, and she's trying to reassimilate herself like how she was, and things are just not quite adding up. So she's kind of venturing out a little bit, um and all that stuff. And like I was thinking, who could be the bad guy in something like this? Like what could the story be? Now we know that Claw was the bad guy, the main bad guy in Black Panther. He was the one who was trying to steal the vibranium, and he manipulated Bushwhacker. I believe that was the guy's name. If it's not, I'm sorry. It's been a while since I watched it, and there's a whole lot of superheroes around that area. Michael B. Jordan, his character. He was the one being kind of manipulated, or so we thought. But Claw was like kind of like the initial bad guy. So what if people Claw worked for, or just people that he worked with, found this other vibranium deposit near where Tigra was? So Tigra's taking them out, and she's actually investigating the stuff now, and kind of going from there. And that's her battle, and that kind of introduces her into the MCU. So it was it's just funny, and there's a lot of things to this that I think can happen. Like if we look at it, Tigra was initially created to be a female hero, written and drawn by females, so she could be a strong role model. So let's have her be a strong role model. Like she doesn't. Sometimes a comic does this, and I'm not a big fan of it. And in this day and age, I don't think we necessarily need it. A lot of female superheroes, and we can even take Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow in all the MCU movies before the Black Widow movie. And if you haven't seen the Black Widow movie, I encourage you to watch it because it's pretty good. I definitely enjoyed it. But in a lot of the movies beforehand, and I'm not going to make any mention of Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson was overly sexualized. You know, whether it was the costumes, with the way they had her pose, the way she was moving in them, is very there was a very sexual element to it. We don't have to do that. We don't have to do that. We can have a strong, sexy female without adding the sexual elements to it. Um, so I think we should start doing that. Like like Tiger could be that person. She can be animalistic, which has its own kind of elements there. I'm not talking about like the furry culture or anything like that, but like the feline movements sometimes they can definitely be interpreted as being sexy. That's why we have Catwoman, and we have Black Cat, and we have all these other female cat themed heroes. Um, but it doesn't have to be overly sexualized. You know, um, and she can have that internal struggle between human and feral natures. So like there's a lot that can be done. Um, and that's just my idea. I mean, what are your ideas for it? I would love to hear it. I would absolutely love to hear it because this character was so much more than I thought, and I had read comics with Tiger in it for years and never knew all this. So you know, who would you cast as Tigra? And I personally, I would like to see. There's an actress named Natalie Emmanuel, and I hope I get the name correct. She's got acting chops from Game of Thrones, Maze Runner, a couple Fast and Furious movies. Um, she's if we did this in Africa, she's actually got kind of a lighter skin tone, which could play well in like almost like close to Egyptian area. So the northern Africa. Um, and she's got a look that could easily transition to Tiger well, I believe. And I believe in the comics, Tiger was originally a Caucasian, like a white woman, and that's fine. And for the most part, if a character is kind of white or black or Hispanic or what Asian, it doesn't matter. Whatever they are in the comics, I'm good with that. Um, like I don't, and I'm not a big fan of changing up characters' backstories or races for the sake of doing it. Like I'm not a big fan of diversity for the sake of diversity. But I do believe, and this is important, I do believe that unless race is something that's pretty essential to a character's story, then race should be pretty open ended. And for an example, I can use the terrible Fantastic Four movie that came out. Not the one with Chris Evans in it and Jessica Alba. The other one with I think it was Kate Mara and Michael B. Jordan. This was before his Black Panther days. Michael B. Jordan was Johnny Storm, so he was the Human Torch. Human Torch in the comics is a white guy with blonde hair, blue eyes, and he is Miss Fantastic's brother. So they're the white family. They are white, super white. And they actually got a lot of flack for casting Michael B. Jordan as a black guy to be in the movie. I saw it and I was like, well, are they changing up the character? And they weren't really changing up the character. They just said that he was adopted. So I have no problem with that, because then you can have them be roughly the same age and go through, same experience, similar experiences, and be different races, and it's fine, because the fact that he was white only mattered because he was Sue Storm's brother and Sue Storm was white. Like, it only mattered because his sibling was white. But them just saying, oh, well, he's adopted in this, I had no problem with it. And when I voiced it to people, they couldn't find a problem with it at that point, other than it just wasn't what they know. And that's understandable, but that doesn't take away from the story. If anything, that gives an opportunity to add to the story, because it gives it a little bit more room for believability. So, I don't mind taking Tigra, who was a white woman, and moving her into Africa to be a black woman, because it won't hurt the character. You can't have Black Panther necessarily be white unless you're talking South Africa with the French British colonization, but that's not the same thing. This was a tribal thing, so having him be black made sense. You can't really mess with that. Having Captain America be white made sense back then, because you weren't going to have a poster child back then in World War II be African American or anything else. He was going to be white. He was going to be a Boy Scout. It is what it is. You can't argue that too much. Tony Stark, him being white makes sense because of the fact that in the movies, his family had a history of making weapons and selling weapons, and you didn't get those opportunities to do stuff like that as an African American, because that was he could now, but I mean, it's a generational thing at that point. His backstory was a generational one. So that's what I say, when I'm like, some you can't change, but some you can. And, I believe that we should create a story for the sake of the story, and we should have a character develop for the sake of the character, because it'll make the character great. And we don't even have to, we could change it, and we don't have to insert politics into it. We can just let the story be. So it doesn't have anything to do with that. It's just this person being a great hero. But that's what I got. What do you guys have? Let me know. Send me your feedback. It's b4itall@yahoo.com, or you can catch me on Twitter at superdeepdive. I look forward to hearing from you guys. I love having back and forth conversations, and I've got some fun stuff planned for later in the month. So until next week, I will talk to you guys later. I hope you all stay safe, stay happy, stay blessed, stay smart, and if you're not smart, don't get caught. All right, I'll see you next week. Bye-bye, guys.